Okay, guys, sorry. Just restarting now. Been a little bit of a weird morning. Oh, God, sorry. Okay, so first thing is we need you guys to focus on deals. I have a 7-day and a 45-day quick start plan. Use it or don't, whatever, to get you guys going on deals. We have all the data in the world to get you guys going on deals. We have we talked about on yesterday's call the different types of data. What I wanted to cover on today's very brief call, I want to keep it short, is if anybody comes on and has questions, great, no problem. But right now, we'll keep it short. Um, is um, deals that don't necessarily sound like they're going to work. Um, and specifically, rent owns. They work all the time. Don't get me wrong. But we got a call from a rent to own tenant. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Rent to own tenant out in Newcastle. That where Connor's at. Connor's done a great job with this guy. Guy owes 25 on the house. Great, we'll give you 25, no problem. We did the comps, we did the research, we did the form, we did everything we needed to do. We did it all. Here we are. Guy agreed to 25. Get on the phone with him, give him my usual broker spiel. Hey, listen, you're gonna be able to send us a copy of your rent to own contract? Of course, no problem. Um, and then, hey, listen, by the way, you're also, and when I asked him for the contract, do you have the contract? Yes, that was not a change. I said, you're going to have to give us a copy of the contract. Temperature of the conversation changed, like noticeably. Okay, great. By the way, we're also going to talk to the owner of the building. Oh, yeah, no problem. She's on board. Okay, great. We need you to give us her name and email address and phone number on the contract. The conversation got a lot colder. And then all of a sudden, he's like, well, I don't want 25. I want 28. All right, we'll give you 20. I want 30. Well, we can't give you 30. We'll give you 28. And rewrote in the contract, sent him the contract. Well, what's this about paying off transfer taxes? Okay, you know what? Normally you pay 1% in transfer tax, but I'll pay the $280. I don't care. More silence now, more reading the message and not responding to the message. Fine. We know the game. So now we looked up the owner. We're gonna call the owner, and this guy's just gonna be SOL because we're just gonna make a deal with the owner, and it's up to her to settle with him. Which my guess is he probably is behind on rent. That's probably what's going on here. And so that one will hopefully go somewhere. It's a great deal. Connor already found a buyer. So this is the greatest thing about working in your own backyard is that Connor was at the gym or whatever, knew this other guy that buys houses, and said, hey, I think I have a house over here. Guy's like, I'll give you this for that house. Connor's like, okay, great. Buy it for A, sell it for B. I've already done the deal. Except the seller, person, entity, whatever, is not cooperating. Fine. So the ways that you guys can make money, I'm just sort of covering this in general. We covered this yesterday. DSCR and hard money, DSCR and fix and flip lending and zero interest lines of credit. Those are easy. You spend 20 minutes with a guy, you answer some questions, you fill out a form, eventually 0.5% lands in your bank account if the deal closes. You're done. It's fast, it's easy, it's over. You can become more involved if you want, whatever. You're calling on different operations. Now, I'm going to show you guys right now, the main thing I wanted to show you was, and I'm just opening up a screen here. I'm going to just run through the math on, actually, I'm going to do even better than that. I'm going to use our chat GPT, our complete H4H chat GPT, and I'm going to explain to it, and I'm going to pull this up on our screen. I want you to see how this chat GPT works. Hey, Will, buddy, we're going to actually run through a property that I talked about on yesterday's call. Do you have any questions before I jump in?
I was just seeing what we're going over so far.
Okay, so really all I've done today, because I got a very late start, is I just talked about a rent to own deal that came in, and the rent to owns are doable. So rent to owns, by that I mean I'm talking to the tenant owner, the tenant buyer, who has a contract somewhat similar to a wholesale contract, meaning they have equitable interest. They have a contract that says, I'm living here, I'm renting this, I'm paying this, and when I've completed ABC, whether it's how much I pay or whatever, they will transfer the deed to me, basically. And this guy called us, one bedroom, yada yada. Connor and I ran the numbers. We did the form. We did all the comps. Okay, great. We know it's going to sell between 75 and 125 when it's done. 25,000 in work. The place is tiny, so 75 becomes 50. 50 becomes 25 when we take the 25 and work out. The most somebody can be paid is most he can be paid is 25,000. He wanted 28, so okay, so we flexed a little bit. When we jump on the phone with him to discuss, I always do that three-way conversation thing where I take him through. I'm a broker. Da da da. Okay, sir. So do you have your rent-to-own contract? Yes, I do. Okay, great. I'm going to just send me pictures of that. So 3 days ago, we haven't got any pictures. I send him the contract for the 25. He goes, later in the conversation. By the way, we're also going to need to put on the contract the name and phone number of the owner. Temperature of the conversation very much changed. He said, yeah, I guess. And it got very chill after that. Not a good chill. But I need that because he can't sign the deed. He can't sign the transfer of the property. Also, for all I know, he's planning on putting 25,000 in his pocket, which will never practically happen. And just skip out and then leave us fighting the owner. We say, well, we just paid for this. And she said, well, I own this and whatever. So Connor, guys like leaving Connor on red, reading it, not responding. And I call him for whatever reason. He calls Connor back after I call him. And he doesn't want 25, he wants 30. So we give him 28. Fine. Send out that contract. Then he's got another very minor question about 1% transfer tax. And for those of you who aren't that fast with math, 1% on 25,000 or 28,000 is 280. 28,000, take away 0 for 10%. 2,800, take away 0, 280. I told the guy, so I'm giving you a crap about 280. Fine. And still more silence. So all that is to say is rent-to-owns you're dealing with the rent-to-own tenant at that point, which is not wrong. Nothing wrong with it. But they have to be willing to cooperate. They have to not be playing games, and then their owner has to agree. So in this case, we sent the contract to him. We've texted him, and we said, and we're moving on, and we're contacting the owner. We're not even telling him we're contacting the owner. We're calling the owner. Because Connor's working in his own backyard, which is a great plan for all you guys. He ran into a guy at the gym who might actually be the buyer on this house. If we could ever get it under contract, he could be the buyer. Now, we did not tell the guy where the house was. It was like, hey, I have a 1-bedroom in Newcastle for, everything works, but the guy's like 35,000. Okay, great. So we, without going into details or whatever, we know what it is. You don't share the information until two things happen. One, we have a signature with, in this case, the rent-to-own guy and the owner. The deed owner is going to be part of the equation. Then we have a locked property. Before that, we do not have a lock on the property. And two, we have we know the buyer is good for the money. We do a proof of funds with the buyer. So anyway, and then this guy's gone dark, so now we're calling the owner. So all I'm saying is, this is not a game where you are working one deal at a time. You're working 10 deals at a time. You're making 20, 30 calls a day, 50 calls a day, whatever. And you're making as many calls, and you're, hopefully you have several things in the pipeline. Like one time when I was an early agent, and this still happens today, feast or famine business. I had 3 deals that were under contract, waiting to close, all fall apart on the same day. And I called my broker, and I was actually crying. I was literally crying because this was my money for December. Basically that was it. And he's like, Steve, you're not upset because 3 deals? I said, yes, I am. He's like, no, you're upset because you only had 3 deals and 3 deals collapsed. You're not upset because 3 deals collapsed. You're upset because 100% of your deals went to shit. And he's right. If I had a dozen deals behind it, I'd be like, oh, well, that sucks. That hurts. But look, the rest of my year is good. And so this is a game of, while we're pushing one deal, you're still doing the same push for everybody else. You're still pushing just as hard to find the next seller. Now, I'm going to run right now with our GPT. I'm going to record actually, if it will let me. Okay, good. So we have a property, a 21 unit property in Chester, I think, Pennsylvania. 21 rental units, 21 two-bedroom townhomes. Landlord pays taxes, insurance, and sewer. Assume, and this I'm literally reading this into our GPT. Rents are averaging $1,000 per month. Tenant pays everything but taxes, insurance, and sewer. Taxes are $12,000 a year. Insurance is $800 per year per unit. Taxes are $12,000 total complete. And sewer and other expenses say another $3,000. I want the chat GPT, and this GPT has this strict training built in. I want to know, with all of the variable options taken into account, and I'm doing this for your benefit, guys. Chat already has this built in. We're assuming 7% over 30 years. That is the mortgage interest rate and term and amortization. Flat rate DSCR, that. We're assuming all different options, meaning no maintenance vacancy management path. So literal hard costs, income, expenses, NOI, DSCR, this is what it's worth. We're assuming 15% maintenance vacancy management. So what chat, whatever you have is low. We're having Steve version, which is 30% maintenance vacancy management. And then we're having excessive, which is 30% plus a monthly escrow of 10%. So 30% maintenance vacancy management pad plus take the hard cost, divide by 10. So give me the valuations under all four scenarios. And again, I read most of that for your benefit. All right. So the last thing I said in there, by the way, guys, was of the four scenarios, the 0 and 15%, it's running DSCR at 1.25 for only the debt, only the bank portion. So your down payment is basically in there for good. So if you had to put in $400,000 in down payment, you're not getting paid on it. You're not making money on it. For my two versions, I get paid on the down payment. I get that actually becomes part of the debt assumption. So it actually asks you here, off, normal, stress plus all. Meaning what levels of stress are we putting on the deal? So it's saying that property is worth $2.1 million to someone that doesn't count maintenance vacancy management. The maximum that property can be worth if on an operational basis you don't spend for a manager, maintaining, or vacancy. However, if you look at that and you say, okay, and this is the important part right here. In that case, this is your profit, and it's not technically a profit. But 1.25 means whatever your debt service is, you need whatever your NOI, your monthly income, net operating income, Divide that by 1.25. So 20% of that number is basically your profit. So NOI here is 220. 176 goes to the bank. So just shy of $50,000 a year is your profit. So that's what debt service coverage ratio does. Debt service coverage ratio says that if your net operating income is 1,200, your mortgage can be no more than 1,000, 1,250, 1,000. Fine. So the most this building is built, if you just give everything to black and there's no maintenance, there's no management, which you're an idiot if you do it, is 2.9 million. Now, if I go light on that, somebody will see that building's worth 2.4. By the way, they bought this building for 1.2. This guy is totally in the black on this building. Now, this says 15% of gross income is set aside for maintenance, vacancy management. Extremely thin, because your manager is going to charge you 7% anyway, and then your coverage for vacancy and for maintenance is only 7%. So 15,000 a year on 21 units, you can spend less than 1,000 a year on maintaining them. That's unlikely per unit. But in that case, 2.4. These are the numbers we might find a buyer to buy the property from us for. Now you'll see, once I put in my two requirements for me, it drops it literally $1 million. Because I'm taking out a lot more maintenance, vacancy management. Which lowers how much I can afford. I mean, if you just compare this, I can afford debt of 115. Up here, I can afford debt of 145. And up here, I can afford debt of 176. So I got nearly $60,000 between no weight and my weight of what I'm willing to buy. So it's going to say the building is worth, to me, 1.4, which is, and if I were to not fund my down payment, I could go another 20% on top of that, so I could be 1.7. I don't personally do that for me, but whatever. So we now have a range from 2.9 down to, now here's the, and this is the pain point one. This is where I want to buy the property. So what I've done here is I've said, okay, everything we did up here, 30% maintenance, 100% of capital stack. So my down payment is paid back as if it were borrowed from the bank. In these versions, my down payment's dead. I put in $400,000 in down payment, and that $400,000 just sits there. It looks like equity, but it's not, because I put 400 grand in to get it. In this scenario, scenario 3, every dollar that's in the building is part of the stack. So I offer them 1.4, and I'm going to go and get a loan or less than that. But so 1.4, I'm going to go and get a loan for 1.1, and I'm going to put in $300,000, which would be a stretch for me personally, but okay. I'm going to put in $300,000, but I'm getting 7% return on my $300,000, so I'm okay. And then so you'll see on my variations, the seller wants to be here. I want to be here. I'll never get here. There's no way I'll get here. Could I get to this number? It's not impossible. This is all about the seller's motivation. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the guy, and I've got to write a introductory letter to him. I'm going to go back to the guy. I'm going to say, listen, he's a very sophisticated, very large owner of buildings. This is like 10% of his ownership. This would be like all I would ever need. I mean, for me I'll be straight up. For me personally, this $30,000 a year is not what I need. Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, so when I'm looking at, so for me personally, this would be a huge ownership. Okay, this would like literally triple what I own right now. Whereas for him, it's 10% of his ownership. So we're not swimming in the same pool. He's only 15 years older than me. It's not whatever. But he's also motivated to sell it. He's not motivated to give it away, but he's motivated to get creative. His kids don't want it. He's at that age. He's at that money level. But he's also not an idiot. He knows where someone should be offering for his property, where things have probably sold for in the past. And I'm going to come and play this game. Or this game. Now I'm just going to ask it that. So scenario 3, and just so everyone understands what I'm doing here. In scenario 3, I'm doing 30% maintenance vacancy management, but the 1.25 debt service coverage ratio has to be the whole deal. So for me, 1.4 is what I want to buy the building. Now, if I want to be a little aggressive, and I'm willing to leave that down payment in there, I could offer him 1.8. And this version 4, it's my 30%, all the hard costs taken out, and then I take another 10% of hard costs out each month. So I'm really beating it up at this point. If I found a seller that would do a deal at $1 million for this package, I'm taking it with a heartbeat. Because I know my whatever $1,000, $20,000 in expenses are being paid for twice. So there's $20,000 hidden in profit there. So probably in this scenario, I'm going to write this guy. He's very sophisticated. First I have to do is write a credibility email. I have to tell him who the hell I am. Why am I important enough? Because he's like, I get 30 of these calls a day. So I know you do. Well, let me show you why I'm different. There. So I first have to write that email. And then say, hey, listen, I'm going to show you on the next email my 4 versions for what I think your property's worth and why. And these are not, and I told him up front, I said, these are not necessarily offers. But these are the 4 ways I analyze. And actually now 6 ways I analyze property. So now I'm using the ChatGPT and I'm saying, please write an intro letter to the seller introducing me as Steve Franco, accredited So now I'm just having ChatGPT put together, and it knows about me. Having ChatGPT put together a letter to the guy that says, "Hey, this is who we are, basically. Tell us about what it is." So now we're going to email this down. I'm going to edit this and email this down to him. And really, what I'm going after saying is, I'm going after saying that so looking at these numbers, and by the way, I'm going from ChatGPT to Offer. You guys are not. Well, you're going to run this back through us, and I'm going to do the long form on this. But you guys are running this back through us. So all I'm doing here is I promised him I'm going to get him a letter today. And my offer is probably going to be 1.4. Okay, so I'm going to say to him, listen, if I'm personally buying your property, 1.4 is where I got to be, and here's why. Because for me to run something from a distance, yada, 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 I got to have this set up. The 1.4 is an interesting number because it came up in version 3, and it came up in the revised version 4, where I'm taking out the extra hard cost, but I'm not covering the 80%. So I'm taking out 30% maintenance management. I'm DSCRing just the debt, but I'm also taking out the hard cost twice. So I had 1.3 come out, 1.4 come out. So that tells me, okay, I have 2 versions coming out there. It's enough for me to open the conversation with this guy. Now, Chat does a horrible job writing these letters, so I'll use more on this. Now, normally with a normal seller, we're not doing this. Normally with a normal seller, we're calling them up and saying, hey, ran the numbers on your property. It's worth blank finished. We're going to put in blank to it. Therefore, we can offer you blank. Well, that's a small number. Yeah, but we're investors. We're not there to live there. This one, the reason I'm explaining this one is because the whole purpose of this letter is I don't think we're getting this deal. I seriously doubt there's a methodology by which I wake up and own this property. But I want to own that relationship. I want to be someone he trusts. I want to be someone he will send his other properties to. I want Mayor and I to be somebody that he can feel comfortable with. And when he gets ready, we are brokers, we are this, we are that. Well, so this letter is less about an offer and more about relationship. However, we're showing him how we ran the numbers. Hey, listen, based on what you gave us, this is what we pulled. This is where we are. Because the relationship is what matters. And that's the biggest thing. Your job is building the relationship. Nair has done a great job with this guy building the relationship. And I don't want to break that. All right, that's about all I wanted to cover today. I just wanted to show you how we use the ChatGPT to develop deal information. Now, ChatGPT can also take files. You have spreadsheets, you have batch leads data, you have comparables, you have whatever, pump it in there. You can also tell the system to go on public data as well. So the point is, whatever you have, plug in there. It already has the prompts built in. You don't have to really engineer the prompts too much. And then you simply stick that. Now, what you do with this information once it's done, it's just as important as everything else, is you're copying, you're pasting it into a Google Doc, and then you're either uploading that Google Doc, Excel spreadsheet, Word document off your computer, I don't care. You're either uploading that into the form or into the CRM, or you're copying the link and you're pasting the link in. The whole point is within the CRM, and this is the important thing, guys. Within the CRM, you're now in the CRM. Of course, I'm not in the right window for the CRM, but that's okay. You're going into the opportunity. And you're including it. You're either uploading the document or you're pasting it in or whatever. So the point is, everything you learn goes into the CRM. Everything you create goes into the CRM. You're then going to create a note over here, or an activity point, either one, but I like notes. Add note. Went to Chat GPT, created and uploaded results. There, here it is. And yes, this feels like it's redundant because it is. Okay. But now I can click that, open that link, and all of a sudden I'm back to the ChatGPT result. If when you do batch leads, you add a note. Batch leads said, great. Income is, so it's there. It's also going over here if it belongs over here. You're also putting it over here. So you're putting it a lot of different places. And also, by the way, just for now, you're taking all this information, you're also emailing to me and Ryan. And here's the last instruction. When you're emailing to me and Ryan, always put the address in the subject line. So we search the address and bing, the whole thread is there. All right, guys. Will, any questions? Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. So let's get together later today and get you and just let's reconnect either later today or first thing tomorrow. Kind of help you get focused on the new data. I have a call with. I'll be uploading new data to the system probably tonight, and I'll put it right in the batch lead so you can dial from it like a list. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye-bye.